How's it? Herb Ritts is, when I think about the 1990s fashion photography and celebrity photography, his name just leaps off the page. There are many great photographers from that time, Peter Lindbergh, Ellen von Unworth, and countless others. But it's Herb Ritts that seduces me with his photography. The look and the feel of it, especially when I was a young student, you know, just looking at these pictures of Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, all the other famous people who seem to be everywhere at this period. Those photographs were just something else. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what drew me to those images. And it's only later now that I understand the lessons that Herb Ritts is able to impart to us, to all of us in our photography. And it all comes from analysing his style. Style in photography it's not often what people think, which is, you know, like putting a filter on or photographing with a wide angle lens or something. It's a little bit more intangible. I feel that it's a collection, a culmination of many different elements that come together in a unique way for that photographer that give you these photographs that when you look at them, you can go, oh, that is immediately a Herb Ritts image. And the first ingredient in Herb Ritts' recipe is light. When I was researching this video and I found a fantastic website, it was the Herb Ritts Foundation website, and it is chock full of interviews. And I'll link to the website in the description box below. And I would highly recommend that you check it out. I haven't got time here to really share all these interviews. But there's out there was Richard Gere, who's the first person who kind of set Herb Ritts on the way. They were friends before Herb was famous or before Richard Gere was famous. And, you know, that you get such an insight. And one of those things about the light is that when you listen to the models talk, they said that Herb, he's from LA, he's got an intuitive sense of how to make the best use of that LA light. He's grown up with it. He kind of, in what time of day, how to get the best out of it, how to use it to get the best out of the person who is photographing. And he would interact with the model, say, look, you know, if you do this, then the light's going to do that. He's talking them through. And that light is harsh light as well. This is not the soft, sculptured, painterly kind of light that, say, maybe somebody like modern Annie Leibovitz is using. This is hard light. It takes a skilled practitioner to be able to use this kind of light in the fantastic way that Herb Ritts is using it. You look at these photographs and they while they are, in my mind, iconic for the 1990s, they're quite clearly not part of the broader style, if you want to call it that, of what the 1990s was about. When I look at the wider world of what was going on, they harken back to a different period. They've got a 1920s feel. They've got a 1930s kind of feel, not just in terms of the way the photographs actually look, you know, how the people are posed and what have you, but often the styling, the clothing styling, the hair styling choices. A lot of these harken back to a different age. And it's tempting to think that, you know, if you want to have your style, you should go back to another period and make something yours. But you need, like with the light, you need a delicate hand. You need to not be just kind of, you know, blatantly copying. You need to kind of master what made those previous styles so great and then put your own little spin on it. And I find that Herb Ritts manages to do this by using one of the two most powerful words in photography. Shape and form. Those two words, more than almost light itself, play what a wonderful, strong, powerful role in photography. Look at Herb Ritts' photographs. And they have that aesthetic, the wonderful light. They have that kind of 1920s feel, which is helped by the sepia look and the black and white treatment. But then he's understanding how the light, how the tone of the images is shaping, quite literally, how the shape and the form of the people who he's photographing into a way that feels absolutely like these are sculptures. And if you're in any doubt at all about whether or not these can feel like sculptures, you only have to look at this photograph here. Now, if you don't tell me that photograph doesn't immediately, you think that's a bronze Roman bust, it's amazing. These photographs, that combination of light, it's like these are living sculptures. And of course, that's probably why these photographs of Cindy Crawford and Naomi Campbell and all the other famous supermodels from the time, those images did so much to elevate them beyond, oh, this is just a famous model. Because you have people who are lucky, how they're born, how they look, being celebrated, being molded almost by an expert photographer who has a command of light, who has an aesthetic, who has that ability to use shape and form to bring all of those elements together in a way that I wish that more photographers could embrace. There's not post-processing trickery. There isn't, for the most part, fancy camera effects, wide-angle lenses and things. It is simply a subject, sitter, somebody's photographing, some light, having a clear sense of what you want this photograph to look like, and then employing that shape and that form that once you understand those kind of ideas, you can employ in your own photographs. It also helps you to find this style. Earlier I mentioned that Herb Ritts, when I looked at his photographs initially as a young photographer, I didn't get the influences. But now I've kind of been around the block a little bit and I see them. And certainly one of the things that stands out for me is that it's like his photographs, Herb Ritts' photographs, could leap from the pages of 1930s Vanity Fair. That golden period of photography where you have people like George Hurrell using lights that nowadays they would scare me. And they're old studio lights, those big Fresnel lenses that are just throwing hard directional light onto models, and yet Hurrell's using them beautifully. I think a modern day equivalent would be a photographer like Vincent Peters. He uses these kind of lights and gets a similar approach. In fact, I would say he's kind of almost, it's certainly to my mind, somewhat of a natural progression, or if you'd like Herb Ritts, you'd like Vincent Peters. So there's one aspect that Hurrell's photographing these celebrities, and Herb Ritts, he grew up living next to Steve McQueen, so he's quite clearly comfortable being around celebrity, and sees himself as part of this world. At least I'd imagine he kind of was like, well, this is just how things are, and that kind of comes through in the photographs. That he's interacting with these people, not as supermodels, but and famous celebrities, but as equal partners in that creative endeavor. And then you have somebody like Edward Steichen. Steichen, master of photography. I mean, he did so many things, but he was also heavily involved with Vanity Fair. And I see some of the sculptural elements, the styling, the way that Steichen is posing figures. You can't help but wonder that maybe Herb Ritts, when he was young, he looks at all these images and he goes, this is amazing, I'm drawn to it, I think it's beautiful, and it has as mentioned earlier, a seductive aesthetic. And because he's knowledgeable enough about photography to kind of go, all right, so why does this appeal to me? He pulls out those elements, distills them down into the parts that work for himself. And in your own photography, you can do this. Find images that you love, find styles that appeal to you, and decipher them. Break them down into their constituent elements and go, okay, I like this approach, I like that approach, I like this feel, right? And take the bits that you want, combine them in your own little pot, mixing pot, melting pot, whatever sort of pot you want to use, and make these photographs your own. These images of Herb Ritz's are gorgeous, and it feels like this has just been a love-in for Herb Ritts, but his work is absolutely stunning, and I would heartily recommend that you go and check out his website. Earlier I mentioned Vincent Peters. If you want to find out what happened when Charlize Theron came to a photo shoot and said, no, this is not happening, then check this video here. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.